Comrades and friends, welcome to the program Global Weekly News, serial number 166. First, we go to South Africa. Goodyear Tire Company announces closure in South Africa. After nearly 80 years of tire production, the announcement of the closure of Goodyear's Kariga manufacturing plant has dealt a major blow to South Africans' already fragile industrial sector. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, insists that the plant remains viable, but accuses the multinational tire giant of pursuing a profit-first strategy that sacrifices workers, communities, and the broader manufacturing base. The company said issues such as dumping of cheap tires into the market are one of the reasons for crisis of Goodyear company. Goodyear's exit leaves hundreds of workers jobless in the Eastern Cape, the province with the highest unemployment rate in South Africa. Eastern Cape. NUMSA successfully negotiated improved severance packages and increase from Goodyear's initial offer of Rand 50,000 and 2 weeks pay per year of service to Rand 1 lakh and 4 weeks pay per year. Goodyear's retract is not an isolated case. South Africa's steel sector has seen mass retrenchments, with companies like Nextsteel shedding hundreds of jobs. NUMSA warns of a pattern. Multinationals are abandoning local production, hollowing out industrial capacity, and turning South Africa into a dumping ground for cheap imports. NUMSA's demand an alternative industrial path. First, protective tariffs across the automotive, steel, and tire sectors to protect what remains of the manufacturing base. Second, stronger public procurement policies to drive localization. Third, an end to tire and steel dumping through decisive trade measures. Fourth, government accountability and incentives, ensuring foreign brands invest in local production. Fifth, a review of outdated taxes hindering the domestic auto sector. The union also points to energy and logistics failures, Eskom's unreliable grid, and Transnet's rail decline as systematic threats to industrial revival. Eskom is a government power producing company. Transnet also is a government company. Railways declining and electricity also unreliable supply. NUMSA says that the country needs decisive state intervention, just as China has done to protect its industries. Second item, comrades, we go to Germany. We go to Hitler's days. He was having a lot of concentration camps. The Buchenwald concentration camp was one of the largest on German soil. It also became a central site of political imprisonment. Communists in particular were jailed there. Ernst Thälmann, the leader of the German Communist Party from 1925 to 1933, was killed in 1944 August on Hitler's direct orders. In April 1945, prisoners took matters into their own hands and liberated the camp under the leadership of the Underground International Camp Committee. Buchenwald Memorial was in East Germany, but since the Germany got united in 1919, the memorial has been increasingly sidelined. Today, bourgeois historiography often denies the prisoners self-liberation. In August 2024, Visitors wearing T-shirts with the Palestinian symbols and keffiyahs. Keffiyah is some sort of cloth around your head, were blocked and kept waiting for a long time before they could enter the memorial grounds where they had come to honor Ernst Thälmann. By April 2025, at the official commemoration of the camp's liberation, the ban had widened. No one displaying Palestinian, Soviet or Russian symbols was allowed to take part. That same day, a young delegate invited by the International Committee, Buchenwald Dora, described Israel's assault on Gaza as genocide. Memorial director immediately intervened and demanded and denounced the speech later in the media as an anti-Semitic attack. It is against the Jews, he says. Just 3 months later, a leaked internal memo revealed the scope of this policy. The document labeled the keffiyah itself anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, as well as the slogan, ceasefire now. It also blacklisted the BDS movement, it's a pro-Palestine movement, and a number of left-wing organizations. The communist organization was singled out and banned from the premises altogether. Third item, comrades, we go to Lebanon. U.S. pressure on Lebanon. Lebanese government faces mounting U.S. pressure to advance resistance disarmaments. A U.S. congressional delegation that included Democratic Senator Jeanna Sagin, Senator Lindsey Graham, and Congressman Joey Wilson, along with U.S. Ambassador to Turkey, Tom Barak, met with the Lebanese president. They gave statements related to the disarmament plan during the press conference. Jeanne Sagin declared her support for the Lebanese state in the disarmament plan. Graham's statements were a bit more incendiary as he linked the country's political and economic future to disarming the Lebanese and Palestinian groups in the country, labeling them as Iran-backed militias. Graham accused Hezbollah of being committed to sectarian-based agendas, not collective national interests. This country is going backward if we don't disarm the Palestinians and Hezbollah and make the Lebanese army the central repository of arms, Graham said. Joey Wilson praised the effort of U.S. President Donald Trump as allegedly made for the Middle East. The visit of the U.S. delegation, which revealed the huge pressure exerted by the Trump administration and the Lebanese government to expedite the implementation of the disarmament plan, has already provoked the anger of the Arab grassroots. Sheikh Naim Qasim, Secretary General of Hezbollah, warned the Lebanese government on 25th August to retract its sinful and illegitimate decision that was made under U.S.-Israeli dictates. Qasim slammed the Lebanese state for making the decision while Israel continues with its aggression on Lebanon and its expansionist intentions under vicious U.S. supervision. Qasim reiterated that Hezbollah will never abandon the weapons, will never allow Israel to roam freely through the country, killing resistance fighters and taking over southern Lebanon. Comrades, we go to Africa now. Sahel Alliance struggles for sovereignty. On 16th September 2023, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger declared the foundation of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, a political and military bloc that challenges French neo-colonial domination. At a recent lecture convened by Pan-Africanism Today, the International People's Assembly, Tricontinental Institute for Social Research, the Socialist Movement of Ghana, NUMSA, National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, etc., the crucial questions: why have the Sahel's military coups enjoyed mass support, etc., were examined. The questions were examined. Pan-Africanists everywhere see the Sahel Alliance as a beacon of sovereignty. African soldiers who fought in World War II returned with expectations of freedom, only to see independence betrayed in the 1960s. Nowhere was this clearer than in Niger, where a 1961 defense agreement handed France near total control of Niger's uranium, the fuel that provides 1/3 of France's electricity grid, while Niger itself remained among the world's poorest countries. Western commentators often portray coups as the mere capture of power. In the Sahel, they have been shaped by decades of grassroots mobilizations against poverty, corruption, and foreign domination. The three Sahel countries have revised mining codes, launched a new regional confederation bank, and initiated discussions on a common currency and common passport. Cultural initiatives are taken jointly. Fifth item, comrades, we go to Latin America. US accuses China of interventions in Latin America. China urged the United States to refrain from interfering in its foreign relations and trying to disrupt its links with Latin American and the Caribbean. It called such efforts a reflection of Cold War mentality, emphasizing that the days of treating an entire region like one's backyard are over. China conducts its relations with the countries in the region on the basis of mutual respect, equality, mutual benefit, openness, inclusiveness, and win-win cooperation, said spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry. Speaking during a conference in Argentina on 21st August, US Navy Admiral accused China of trying to export its authoritarian model to Latin America and extract the region's precious resources in a methodical incursion. The US, following its infamous Monroe Doctrine of 1823, has sought to maintain control and domination over Latin America and the Caribbean. US has interfered in their domestic and economic decision-making as well, both during and after the end of the Cold War in 20th century. In recent decades, several countries in the region, riding the wave of popular movements, have revolted against US intervention and successfully asserted the independence of their domestic and foreign policies. Countries such as Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua have been subjected to US sanctions or total economic blockade for years now because the governments there have refused to submit to US dictates. Recently, millions of people mobilized in Venezuela in reaction to the US raising the bounty on their president, Nicolas Maduro, and sending troops into the Caribbean, threatening its security. The US should not try to sow discord between China and Latin America and the Caribbean Chinese Foreign Ministry said. Sixth item, comrades. Iran demands concrete international action to end genocide. Abbas Araghchi, Iranian Foreign Minister, called for more concrete collective action against Israel, asserting the mere verbal condemnations are no longer enough to prevent its unsatiable Zionist ambitions to ethnically cleanse Palestine and expand their occupation in the region. Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian Foreign Minister, reiterated that the Israeli war in Gaza is not merely a military conflict or an ordinary humanitarian crisis. It is a systematic, full-fledged genocide explicitly intended to achieve ethnic cleansing amidst the complicit silence of the US and the West more broadly. Abbas Araghchi said that Israel has turned hunger and famine into a new tool of genocide. War and genocide in Gaza is amongst the darkest human tragedies of the modern era. Araghchi arrived in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on 25th August to attend an extraordinary meeting of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC. Araghchi hoped that the OIC meeting attempts would be made to establish an international mechanism to ensure the immediate and unconditional provision of food, medicine and fuel to the besieged population, calling it an urgent moral and legal obligation. Similarly, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, said that only standing with Palestine with words and condemnations is useless. Rather, we must act like the brave people of Yemen and ensure that all lifelines of aid to the Zionist regime, Israel, are cut off. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while speaking with one of the TV channels, expressed his full commitment to the idea of a great Israel, encompassing territories of 6 Arab countries apart from occupied Palestine. Greater Israel. Several Arab countries and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation have officially condemned Netanyahu's comments, calling them a threat to regional peace and stability. Iran condemned the repeated Israeli attacks on Yemen's civilian infrastructure and called them war crimes and crimes against humanity. Seventh item, comrades. The global Sumud flotilla, over 50 ships set to sail for Gaza. In July 2025, a new international maritime initiative was launched, the Global Sumud Flotilla. It was formed by 4 major coalitions like the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, Global Campaign to Return to Palestine, etc. The Global Sumud Flotilla is set to depart on 31st August 2025. Its goal is clear: to break Israel's illegal blockade on Gaza, to deliver urgent humanitarian aid, and to expose the genocidal war waged on Palestinians by Israel. The flotilla is composed of dozens of small civilian vessels carrying activists, MPs, doctors and trade unionists alongside humanitarian cargo. More than 39 national delegations have pledged participation, making this the largest people-led maritime effort in solidarity with Gaza. This is not the first flotilla of its kind this year. The Handala and Madeleine, 2 of the Freedom Flotilla's flagship vessels, also set sail in an attempt to break the blockade of Gaza. However, they were attacked by Israeli drones and stormed by Israeli forces. Passengers were beaten, kidnapped and deported. Phones were confiscated. Activists were interrogated, and many went on hunger strike to protest their detention. Israel's interception of the Handala and Madalin constitutes nothing less than piracy and a war crime. As the flotilla prepares to set sail with more than 50 ships, its message resounds across seas and continents. The siege must fall. The Israeli siege must fall. Gaza must live. Palestine must be free. Free Palestine. Lastly, comrades, second annual People's Conference for Palestine. Thousands of pro-Palestine activists are set to gather in Detroit of Michigan of USA for the second annual People's Conference for Palestine from August 29 to August 31. Thank you, comrades. Last salam. See you next week.